All right, I'm gonna start it. So, welcome to the Live Unpilled podcast, or soon to be All Access podcast. Gonna change the name soon. So I'm gonna start with the questions. So, what initially drew you to motorsports, and how did you get started with karting?
Well, Stephen, it was really by chance, to be honest. My One of my dad's work colleagues did some go karting for fun, and so that just spurred his interest. Really, we had no involvement in motorsport before that point. And my older brother started off go karting when he was, I think, 10 or 11 years old. Um, and yeah, for like a year and a half, it was just him who did it. And then at some point, um, yeah, I had a go and quite enjoyed it, and it just really snowballed from there, bit by bit. I was pretty terrible to start with, but enjoyed it, and yeah, year by year, things got more serious.
What age did you start karting?
I was 10, I think, when I started, and yeah, then I did 2 years of like national championships. Um, yeah, first year was a disaster. Like we got close to quitting because it was that bad. So definitely not all rosy.
And then, can you describe your transition from karting to single seater and your experiences in like Formula Renault and Formula Three?
Oof, yeah. So yeah, I mean, to be honest with my karting, I stayed in it for quite a lot longer than um, I guess many kids do. Lots of kids, especially nowadays, want to get into car racing as soon as possible. So quite often they make that transition at sort of 14, 15, 16 years old. Um, but I stayed in karting till I was 18. So I think my first I think I was 18. I can't remember whether I was 18 or 19 for my first full season in car racing. But the the transition was um, kind of honestly, it was kind of unexpected actually, because I remember getting in a go kart in a race car for the first time coming out of go karts. Um, we went to a track in Albacete, which is in Spain, and I just finished racing in Formula A, which is like a direct drive, top level direct drive championship back in my days, and also 125cc gearbox go karts, which looking back now are phenomenally fast. Like, I got into the Formula Renault, and I remember the acceleration and the speeds that I felt were just so slow. It was like, what's all this about? This is bizarre. I was thinking it would be this massive car and um, would feel fast, but the very first impressions were actually things were in slow motion a bit. The only strange thing was the downforce aspect, and that's something I hadn't experienced before. And so to learn that through more open radius corners where you can carry more speed and get more downforce, the grip would ramp up in a way that I hadn't felt before. So that was interesting, and that was honestly the biggest transition point from karts to cars. The fact that things happen slower because it's a bigger car, and you've got suspension travel and the car loading up. You do have to learn a bit of that, but the fundamentals of how to drive fast around a track, it generally boils down to feeling the tire grip and being on the limit of the tire as often as possible through the braking zones and corners. And whether in a go kart or a race car or probably a rally car, or um, I've done a couple of rally cross tests for fun, and it was still the same situation. You're still balancing the grip that you've got, and so yeah, from the pure driving, it wasn't too crazy. It was just understanding how to manage the downforce and the pitch of the car, I guess, through the corner, and how that relates to downforce and grip. But yeah, sorry, I'm just going back to your question. You asked to go through Formula Renault and Formula Three. I mean, yeah, I'll keep it brief because you can go into so much depth about nothing really. But
There you go.
they were two
Go on then.
interesting seasons in Formula Renault. A lot of learning took place. Um, I made a lot of mistakes, honestly, quite a few crashes. Um, yeah, fortunately, we're in a position where we were able to have crashes and keep racing, which is not the case for some people, unfortunately. So I was able to go about it in a very free way of exploring the limits. And yeah, things started to click in my second year in Renault. I started to understand what I needed to do to attain a high performance fairly consistently. Well, I don't think I was ever really the quickest. A guy called Adam Christodoulou generally was the fastest, but through consistency, I scored the most points in the championship, but actually came second because they had like this dropped rounds rule where you actually only count 18 out of the 20 rounds. I didn't have any DNFs or anything, so yeah, I dropped points because of that. And then yeah, the transition to Formula Three. I mean, I went straight to the Formula Three Euro Series, which was really a high level championship at the time. Um, Effectively, what FIA F3 is now. Very different cars and tires and things, but yeah, it was the top Formula Three championship, and that was yeah, surprisingly all right actually. I was expecting it to be a really tough first year, but got on top of things fairly quickly and things clicked. Had a good team in Muka Motorsport, and I think we came fourth in the championship, right behind Bottas. So yeah, it was a cool learning curve through single seaters. And to be honest, much of what I learned then is still 100% relevant today in whatever I drive, whether it be Formula E cars, GT cars, prototypes. It's all the same fundamentals.
And then following with one of your statements, how was racing with Valtteri?
Yeah, Valtteri. I mean, uh, there wasn't too much social side. I've got to be honest. He's a man of few words. Well, he definitely was back then, and I probably was back then as well. To be honest, it's slightly strange being teammates in inverted commas and single seaters because um, they're who you're judging yourself off first and foremost because they're in the same team as you and have the same sort of technical equipment as you. So you know that you need to beat them to progress in your career. And I didn't know at the time what Valtteri would go on and do, but he was operating at a very high level. He would always beat me in qualifying, but yeah, it was frustrating. Honestly, in my second year, I was teammates with him, and yeah, he was just better than me. Simple as that. Not by much, but he was always better. Um, but yeah, in terms of as a teammate, that we didn't ever really go out much. Didn't really have too many meals together or anything. He was a perfectly nice professional guy, not difficult to get on with, but yeah, there was no real sparks in our friendship, I would say.
Yeah, and also speaking of Formula Renault, was my college actually has two of them that we work on, and they're like the
Mm.
worst cars to work on. Like the bolts always rammed
Really?
off, and like the side pods snapped in half. So it's like
Okay.
the worst car to work on.
Oh, well, I don't know if they're getting a bit old nowadays or what, but I raced with Manor Competition and they prepared the cars pretty well. We had very few, if any, technical failures through the two seasons. To be honest, um, they were well well developed and yeah, I've got to be honest, they were pretty good for us. But they're a good entry level race car to learn on. I'd have thought. I don't know a huge amount about the technical side of things, but I tried to get my hands dirty and learn what I could back then, but I've forgotten most of it by now, to be honest, Lola. So, um, yeah, I think they're half sensible in terms of learning the ropes.
Yeah, they are pretty decent. They're just I hate them.
Not great if they keep breaking on you. That's no fun.
Yeah, we got one from like 2006. That's like older than me. I was born in
Yeah,
2000.
well, yeah, that's probably the issue, to be honest. Yeah, yeah, I think most race cars, and especially in a college environment where people are learning on them all the time, yeah, if it's an almost 20-year-old race car, then it's going to struggle.
Yeah, also, like speaking of your junior career, obviously you won the McLaren Young Drivers Award. Like, do you think that's had like an impact on your career?
Most certainly, I would say that it's really one of the biggest moments in my career. Honestly, winning that award, it first it just puts you on physically on the stage at the Autosport Awards, but puts your name up there alongside some absolute greats of the sport. And as a young driver, to have your name thrown in that ring, it was quite powerful for me personally to give me a bit of a boost of self confidence, and I guess dare yourself to dream properly, because up until that point you say to yourself and say to other people that you want to get to F1, but do you really believe that it's going to happen? I don't know if I truly believed it. Um, Whereas after that award, it it gave me that bit more self belief, to be honest. Obviously, I never did get to F1, so I was probably correct in my self doubt, but I probably had a part to play in the results and things. But it was huge. Yeah, lovely award process where you go through. I had 2 days at Snetterton, but now it's at the Silverstone Grand Prix track. Um, but yeah, I drove 3 different types of cars: a DTM car, Formula 3, and an Aston Martin GT4 car. And yeah, you bounce in between different cars, different times of the day. Very little preparation time for each one. It's just purely down to your driving abilities on track. Really exciting, and you're being judged the whole time. And if you crash, you're out basically. But you've got to be fastest if you can be. So yeah, really, real high stakes all the time. But thankfully, it went well, and yeah, then got an amazing prize of driving the McLaren F1 car at Silverstone. That was a cool experience. But yeah, also I got a prize driving the Aston Martin GT1 car as well at Donington, which I remember very, very fondly. It was a really cool experience. Um, so yeah, all in all, amazing award, and did a huge amount for my career.
I think it's Aston Martin now, isn't it? Been
It
rebranded.
is, yeah. So yeah, so Aston Martin have been the main partner for the award for a few years now. Great to have them on board, and I've now gone full circle, and I'm now a judge for the award as well. So it's amazing to see that from the other side, and to help out a bit as a judge to help it run and work, and yeah, see how many different people actually come together to do something good in motorsport. No one's there to make money. No one's there to promote themselves as judges or the teams that run the cars or anything. It's really all about the young drivers, all about giving them an opportunity to shine. And yeah, sometimes it's difficult having to just choose one winner, because it may sound corny, but that they're all winners for getting to the award. I'm sure the 3 people who don't win don't feel like that at the moment that it happens, but hopefully they can all reflect back on it after it's done a few years later and still appreciate how cool an experience it was. But yeah, no, it's a really, really nice experience, really nice award.
Yeah. So you compete in obviously a wide range of racing, and they've got like their own unique challenges. I was like wondering, like, how do you approach them, like getting used to the car and that?
Um, I, yeah, when I look back, I have driven quite an array of different cars, different championships and things. I always try to just say yes to opportunities. and did find myself in sometimes some difficult situations with teams and things at circuits that I wasn't too familiar with. But yeah, the adaptation phase into a new car or new track championship. It's really just about doing as much research as you can to prepare yourself what the differences might be, try and anticipate things. Um, I tried to use simulators as much as I could, but have learnt, unfortunately, over the years that I just don't get on with simulators. So they're not really a tool that I use to prepare anymore. Um, and then it's sort of there's the doing your research and preparing as best you can, but then letting that sink in, and then when I'm there at the track, actually trying to keep it as simple as possible. Go out there and just focus on the basics every time. Priority number one is always when you're learning a car and a track, is just to keep pushing the braking points later and later and later, because that's really where I would say 60-70% of the lap time always is in a race car. It's almost always on the brakes. And how you brake into a corner dictates the rest of the corner so much. If you don't brake correctly to start with, then you're always chasing your tail, and you're never going to get the optimum speeds through the apex and exits. So yeah, that's as basic as it is, really, in terms of one's approach to new situations. In terms of, like, I guess that's purely the driving side, but obviously from a team side, you obviously want to try and get on with the people, try and be amicable, and open to understand how the teams got to where it is, and just be polite and get on with people always helps a huge amount, so that they're on board with you. But yeah, I kind of take that as a given, really, because anyone in their right mind, if they're given an opportunity, should be grateful for it. But I mean, yeah, not everyone always is, but yeah, it's a cool thing to get new opportunities. As I said, throwing myself into a lot, and it's so often that one opportunity actually ends up leading on to another one. Might not be within the next week or month, but sometimes 2-3 years later, you realize that you've got another opportunity because of something you did quite a while ago. So always important.
So how was Formula E cars like compared to your other like cars that you've driven before?
Ooh, Formula E. Where do I start? Yeah, I mean, Formula E is it's so different to every other form of motorsport that I've been involved in. Yeah, from a technical perspective, the fact that they're electric, honestly, I mean, it's a big difference. Don't get me wrong, but it's also by far not the only difference at all. The tires in Formula E are so unique to understand. The brakes are, well, when I drove the Gen 2 car anyway, were really, really tricky. I think they probably still are, to be honest, but having not driven the Gen 3 car, I can't comment too much on that. But mixing the regen braking with the mechanical brakes is a fine art, for the team, and to manage the software to get that balance right. Yeah, it's oh god. I mean, as I'm thinking about it, then I'm thinking through the racing, the energy management that you have to do is so much more advanced than in any other form of motorsport either than I've done. Like, I'm in Imsa at the moment in America, and fuel saving is honestly quite a large part of the racing over there in terms of how you manage the strategy. But still, you're doing nothing like the level of energy management that you do in Formula E. Everything's so precise, there's so much data available in Formula E, but you, as the driver in the car, manage almost everything. You're on your own pretty much in the race. You talk to your engineer, but they don't see any of your data, really. So you're in the car having to manage it all on your own. And it's a stressful situation. most of the time they're on street tracks. They're going away from it a bit now, but in my day, it was almost all street circuits. So you've got walls as your limits. There's no white lines as the limits where you can, go onto the exit curb or just go a bit wide. It's if you're in the wall, you're out the race almost certainly, which, yeah, unfortunately I had on a few occasions as well. But it's just so much going on, honestly. And to add insult to injury, you're up against some of the best drivers in the world, best manufacturers in the world, pouring loads of money into it. So the pressure's on. You know that, so you can't make mistakes. But it's it was an amazing part of my career. I really, really enjoyed certain aspects of it. The technical side was really interesting, but the racing, the pressure of it all, got to me, and I wasn't able to really be relaxed and be operating at my best the whole time because of that. So I struggled a bit with it, to be honest. I think 4 years was enough for me. I was honestly quite happy to leave by the end of it.
Obviously, about the street tracks, I wanted your opinion on like them introducing like permanent tracks.
Yeah, I think where the series is going in terms of how fast the cars are, it's probably the right, or it's probably one of their only options. The street tracks that they historically have gone to are awesome, and it's really, really what makes Formula E Formula E. But the performance levels that they're starting to talk about in terms of four-wheel drive, I don't know what they're going to be like. I guess 450, 500 kilowatts, which is I don't know what that is in horsepower, like 650 horsepower or something. These cars are going to, especially in Gen 4, they're going to be fast. And so then if you're exclusively on street tracks in city centres, I think one of the biggest headaches is for the championship is the barriers and the crash structures on the barriers for those speeds of cars becomes a bigger headache and a bigger headache. And so everything just has to ramp up. But they're restricted so much on space in city centres. If often Formula E will want to be in iconic areas of the city because why wouldn't you? But with that brings a lot of restrictions, and so when you're getting cars that in my time in Formula E, we would rarely go much above like 120, 130 miles an hour probably, but with these speeds of cars, then you're talking about 160, 170 miles an hour, and it just adds complications to the circuits design and things. And so, yeah, bigger open tracks are kind of just where it's going. I think it probably will lose a little bit of its excitement on the big circuits, especially to the live audiences anyway. But yeah, I guess they've got to go where it's easy for them to race, and a little bit of where the money is as well, inevitably. Same with every championship. And yeah, see how it evolves. But I think, or I hope that the people in Formula E are smart enough to understand what its DNA is in terms of the type of racing that needs to happen to keep it being Formula E. And so yeah, hopefully they can hold on to some of that.
Oh yeah, did you see that they were considering Silverstone instead of London?
Yeah, sounds like, just reading the reports, that looks like it's quite possible. Which, I mean, I love Silverstone to bits. It's a fantastic circuit, but when you compare Silverstone to the London circuit and the XL, it's really one end of the spectrum to the other in terms of the circuit configurations and types. So I don't know whether they're talking about it being on the GP circuit or on the Stowe circuit at Silverstone or South Circuit, or there's so many different configurations that it could be at Silverstone, and I guess they could even add. They've got enough bits of tarmac runoff that they can also probably just make corners to be completely different if they want them to be. So Probably too early to judge, even though I don't think I've seen that it's even been confirmed. But even if it were, I don't think people should jump to too many conclusions. Probably in terms of the fact that it would be on a massive open race circuit. Yeah, see what they come up with. I'm sure they're smart enough to make the track configuration interesting so that it retains good racing. But yeah, it's a heck of a lot more convenient for me, honestly, because I'm only an hour away from Silverstone.
I'm like 20 minutes away, so good for me.
Spot on. Nice one.
As an experienced endurance racer, what are some of the key strategies for success in long-distance racing, both as a driver and as part of the team?
Good question, Rosie. I would say like a big part of endurance racing is kind of like, if you boil it down to the basics, is keeping calm, because so much happens through a race that if you are not careful, you can get sucked into the situation that's happening on track. Tussling with another car or two, and think that is super important in the race, and quite often it's not. It's kind of a weird way to go racing, to not care too much, but it's the smartest thing to do in so many situations. Is obviously you want to be at the front of the race, and fighting for the right positions, but there are plenty of moments where just swallowing your pride a bit and going, you know what, this battle is not worth me giving everything for. It's far, far more important, obviously, to just stay in the race, keep the car clean, and be there at the end. I'd say, especially with the racing that I do in America and Imsa, the rule set is really designed to create an exciting race at the end. So lots of safety cars, lots of bunching up of the field, and so it's likely that you're going to be given another chance later in the race if it's a longer race. In the WEC, it's a little bit different because they do tend to neutralize the race a lot more. So if you give up positions more freely there in that championship, then that will bite you. But still, it's obviously important to have a clean car and continue to be fast throughout the race, even in the WEC. Having a good team mentality, I think, is super important in endurance racing, because more often than not there is going to be more than one car in a team, or more than one car within the manufacturer group, as it were. So being able to put others before you and help the team is always pretty important, and I think something that quite often people from single-seater backgrounds struggle with initially. They're obviously used to it all being about them, and so to give up a weekend sometimes for the better of the team is tough. But yeah, then I guess the team focus goes beyond just what's happening on track, but also driver lineups. We've often got three guys in the cars, and so to be willing to be honest on a race weekend and say whether you're feeling good or not feeling good in terms of your performance, whether you give up your qualifying session or chop and change things for the better of the whole team, even though it might to you look bad if you say that you don't want to qualify. That is really, really critical, to have a nice open platform within your driver group. Making compromises on car setup sometimes is a big factor. It's I guess a lot of compromise, a lot of working together to find the best solution, albeit quite often one that might not be the best for you personally. That's kind of the general vibe of endurance racing. It's nice team atmosphere, by far the best type of racing that I do for that. Get along with all your teammates rather than actually wanting to beat them. That's a really nice nice factor. So yeah, it's complex, but it's cool. Well, yeah, it's difficult, honestly, into my racing career nowadays. I don't control anything that happens in the championship. I don't really control anything that happens within the team even. I'm paid to do my job and drive the race cars as fast as possible. I'm not in a position to really dictate too much, but I obviously talk about it a fair amount with the people that I work with, and so on a lower level, I would guess, in terms of just the immediate 10, 15, 20 people that I'm working with, try and have a positive impact on that and try and correct them and just clear up some of the misinformation that's out there sometimes on certain topics. It seems as well that championships are kind of understanding that they've got to go down that route to think about their own sustainability credentials in terms of how all the race cars operate. I think a more sustainable fuel is being incorporated by most championships nowadays, which is a plus point. But I think we've also got to be honest and realistic that any motor racing event that pulls in 20, 30, 40,000 people, let alone talking about like Formula One levels of crowds, like it is it's not a sustainable event in itself. When you have 40,000 people traveling to an event, a lot of energy is consumed in doing so, but that's the way the world is. Like, we have these events for people to have fun, right? Like, we can't, the best thing from a sustainability point of view would just be not to have the event, but that's pretty unrealistic, and then no one would have any fun in life whatsoever. So that's not a great solution. I think things are moving in the right direction. We'd always want them to move faster from a sustainability point of view. There's a lot of technology out there that, if production were able to be ramped up super quickly, would get to more people more quickly in terms of EVs and renewable energy and stuff. But it's a chicken and egg situation in every scenario, really, that that the demand needs to be there for manufacturers to want to build the technology, because they want to make money and sell it. So they don't want a surplus sat around waiting for people to lap it up. So I've gone off topic slightly, but it's a complicated one. But I focus on myself in my personal life, making sure that I've renovated houses to be way more sustainable, put in a lot of solar panels, go to heat pumps to get off burning gas and things. It's a tiny drop in the ocean, but doing it myself, and I guess being able to talk about it, just means that I spread the message a little bit within my circle of people that I know. And I'd say I just try and help people, to be honest. There's quite a few times when people might be going down that route themselves with their own, whether it be properties or looking at investments or this or that. And quite often it seems people will come to me to just have a chat about it, and I can help them in various ways. So it's kind of where I'm at now. I'm not racing in Formula E anymore. I can't really bang that drum too hard in terms of electric race cars, because I'm driving a petrol-powered Corvette. So I don't want to be a complete hypocrite, but I've driven EVs myself in my daily life for like the last 10, 12 years now, and equally proud to do that and to be myself away from the racetrack and do something slightly different.
Can you walk us through your championship winning season in the Imsa GTP Championship with Cadillac Racing, and what were the highs of those in that season?
That was last year. and it was a strange year, to be honest. I look back on it fondly for the people that I worked with, and it was a great experience from that point of view. The whole people at the whole team at Action Express Racing were pretty much, yeah, all of them were new to me when I joined that team. I knew Pipo Durrani from Formula 3, but I'd never really chatted too much to him either. So it was a very new experience going into that, but one that I was excited about leaving Formula E to go back to endurance racing and to go into the top level of IMSA. But sorry, I think my kids are coming upstairs to get ready for bed. So I might have to move in a second if it's too noisy. 1 second. I will move. It's way too noisy. 1 second, guys. Let's pause this. Do you want me to go downstairs? I'll go downstairs. I think I'll go downstairs. Sorry. Hopefully the Wi-Fi continues. Okay. Keep the noise down for you. No, back to that sofa. So, yeah, as I said, it was all a very new experience, and didn't honestly go anywhere near as well as I'd hoped. We won the championship, so it may seem strange for me to say that, but we were testing with the 2022 tyre, and things seemed to be going well, and my performance level was getting closer and closer to that of Pipo's, to the point that I was challenging him sometimes, and he was, really having to push himself to stay as the fastest guy. I mean, he's done prototypes for, I don't know what, 5, 6, 7 years before that, so he's super experienced and still young. So understandable that he was up the road from me a bit. But then we changed to the 2023 tyre, and it had really quite different characteristics. And I basically struggled a bit from that point on. I tended to overheat the tyre, and didn't understand this really until the 4th round of the championship as well, which also hampered things. Then understood it and was trying to manage it a bit better through the season. But yeah, most of the time I was in the car, it was kind of a little bit of damage limitation. There were only a few circuits where I was actually able to be on the pace and pushing hard to move forward in the race. Quite often, kind of just trying to hang on, which was not a nice feeling. But we got through it. And being the first season of GTP with these new LMDH cars, it also seemed that no one really wanted to, or no one was able to, get a strong foothold on the championship run. Lots of people had different issues throughout the season. And so no one really started running away with it in the points. So we came into the last race with as good a chance as anyone else, basically. It was like, I can't even remember, there's like 5 or 6 points in it. And basically it was whoever won the race would win the championship out of the top 4 people. And then it ended up that none of those people did win the race. And so it was still really, really close. I can't actually remember where we finished in the end, like 4th or something, or 5th. But the way that worked out, we actually ended up with the most points, so we won the championship. So yeah, I'd already made the decision quite early in the year, though, that I was going to go back to GTs the following year, i.e. this year, because I could tell that it wasn't really working out for me in prototypes for whatever reason last year. So yeah, it was all a bit of a strange one to know. I think it was like May. I knew that I was going to go back to GTs, May or June. And so in my head, I was already knew that I was over. I was done in prototypes. Didn't make me try any less hard, obviously. I wanted to do my job and finish the championship on a high if we could, but didn't really expect us to win it. And amazingly we did. So it was a nice added bonus. But yeah, from a pure selfish performance point of view, pretty happy to be back in GT cars now, and things are thankfully starting to click again and back to the performance levels that I was hoping to have had last year.
Oh yeah, sorry for going back to electric cars, but yeah, I saw you did a
That's all
test with so, yeah, I think it was Scandinavian touring cars, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Was it like, how was that? So I think they're all electric.
Yeah, so they were just in the process of making that transition, which is a pretty bold move, honestly, for a national. Well, yeah, Scandinavia. It's not quite a national championship, but pretty much is based in Sweden. Touring car championship to move from petrol powered cars to electric. Big, big cost for them as a championship to commit to that. Because they're largely privateer teams with maybe a little bit of support from manufacturers or the national importers of those manufacturers anyway. Definitely not full manufacturer backing. So it's a pretty bold move, but the EPWR I think was the car that I drove, and it was a great fun little car actually. The first electric touring car that I'd driven, first touring car I think full stop that I've driven, but kind of just felt like a GT car that was a little bit taller and a little bit more weight transfer. I think that they will have a good format of racing, nice and short races, so keeps it fairly interesting for the viewer. You know, the drivers will know that they'll have to make the moves quickly if they're going to. And yeah, from a technical point of view, it was interesting to feel how the car started off with maximum power, which is the way batteries work. You know, when they're at the highest voltage, when they're fully charged, they can put out the most power. And then the power did drop off a little bit through the run, and managing temperatures a little bit. It was a fairly basic car, which they need to make it, but nevertheless, there were still things to manage from the driver's point of view. So that was interesting to experience. And yeah, I mean, I just wish them all the best. Honestly, it's as I say, it's a really bold move for them, but really impressive for them to be going down that route. And yeah, the track that I raced at is really nice actually to go to a circuit, Mantorp in Sweden, a couple of hours drive from Stockholm, and go to a place that I'd never been to before and have a completely new experience again. It was really cool because having done car racing now for like 15 years, the amount of new experiences that you actually have in the end, especially now that I'm out of Formula E, you know, that few and far between. I've been to most of the tracks that I'm going to many times before, in various cars, so you kind of know what to expect. But that was a truly new experience. Lovely guys running the championship, and yeah, I can only wish them all the best with it.
Oh no, what was I going to ask now? I was just kind of wondering, do you have like any like future goals for your career?
I mean, I'm running out of time to achieve too many future goals, at the tender age of what is it, 36 now. It seems weird to now be facing the reality that although I feel still like in my prime, but the years are not endless anymore. I would hope I could have maybe 10 more years of racing, but if I get to mid 40s, late 40s, then you know that there aren't too many people in that age bracket still racing professionally, so I'll be fortunate to do that. But yeah, I mean, Bathurst is one race that I've never been to still. I've never been to that track, so that's definitely still on the list of somewhere that I'd like to go. But yeah, I'm I guess a bit of a strange one. I'm not massively motivated by winning specific races. Um, it's obviously why we go racing is to compete and to win. But yeah, I really do it nowadays to enjoy the experience and to work with some amazing people and yeah, enjoy the moment. And if that leads to a win, then brilliant, But I'm aware that by starting off a race weekend, trying to win a race and just thinking about winning, winning, winning the whole time, it's not how you necessarily achieve it. You need to focus in the here and now, and be present in what you're doing to reach that goal. And so, yeah, that's really where I'm at nowadays, just trying to find enjoyment in what I do, which thankfully this season I really find it quite easy to enjoy it, surrounded by a great bunch of guys in the team. And so, yeah, I don't have any real overarching ambitions for my career that I would sacrifice certain things to achieve. Like I take it as it comes, just enjoy what I do. I think I should be going back to Spa 24 hours this year, which is something I haven't done for, I don't know, like 6 years or something. So that'll be fun. But yeah, just take the opportunities, enjoy it. I mean, it's at the end of the day, being paid to go and race cars is a pretty privileged position to be in. It's such an enjoyable job, particularly when it goes well. But yeah, just keep doing what I do, honestly.
So beyond racing and like aside from like on the track, what are some of your hobbies and like interests?
Well, as you might have noticed, I've got kids. I've got 3 boys, and so that takes up about 100% of my spare time. um, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy seeing my friends outside of racing. Nice to switch off and things, but I don't have any real life outside of motorsport and my family nowadays. I can think back to the days before I had kids, and I used to really like my cycling. Spend quite happily 2-3 hours a day doing that sometimes. Um, like to play squash, like to do badminton, racket sports quite often. Um, Spending time with my wife, then girlfriend at the time, just doing normal things, going to the cinema and going out for meals and stuff. But yeah, that's changed somewhat nowadays. Still go out for meals sometimes, but it's predominantly spent trying to make sure the kids eat what they should eat, and not get down from the table too early, and not run around and not upset other people, and it's just normal family life, which I love. So yeah, normal keep fit stuff. Obviously, I have to be in reasonable physical shape for my job. Um, but yeah, the days of actually having a specific hobby outside of motorsport, which already takes away a lot of my time, um, yeah, those days are on hold for the moment until the boys are a little bit older, I think.
So do you watch any other sports? Like, do you watch tennis?
I occasionally, I don't have a huge amount of, as I said, time to sit down and watch the opens and things, but I do watch them, particularly highlights of motorsport races sometimes. I'm an Arsenal fan, so again, occasionally I watch Arsenal game on TV sometime, um, but predominantly just 5-minute highlight clips, because that's really all that I've got time for. I just don't want to spend 2, 3, 4 hours at a time consuming another sport, which is great and I enjoy it, but it takes another chunk of time away from my family, which when I've got back from being away for 1 or 2 weeks, I just can't justify to myself anymore, to sit down and enjoy something like that on my own. They're still not at an age where they would enjoy it with me, I guess is the other thing. So maybe when they're older, when they're teenagers and they're enjoying the same things and consuming the same sports as I do, then it'll be something that I can get back to and enjoy with them. But for the moment, yeah, I'm dad most of the time when I'm not racing.
Being an Arsenal fan, though, is criminal, by the way. It's worth saying.
Well, it's not been something to shout about for quite a few years, to be honest. So yeah, I'll take a bit of the limelight at the moment with us doing quite well.
As someone who has been involved in motorsports since a young age, how do you balance your racing career with your personal life and relationships?
Yeah, it's a huge challenge, and I think it really is for most people in motorsport, um, a real difficult balancing act to manage the time needed to dedicate yourself to motorsports. I mean, I think it's probably to pretty much to any job or any sport, any profession. If you want to be the best you can be, you have to dedicate yourself to that profession and sacrifice, sacrifice things along the way. And more often than not, that comes down to taking time away from those relationships that are also important to you. Um, and yeah, I guess you got to just hope that it's more of a temporary thing for you to allow you to get to where you want to be, and hopefully those relationships are still there to be able to then invest into time wise when you're able to later on. But yeah, when I think back to how much effort and time I put into my career, um, back between, I guess, sort of ages 14 through to, well, only really a few years ago, I'd say things started to calm down once I just decided to leave Formula E, because before then, every year really was us trying to make the step up in the next category, or learn the new category. I have rarely stayed in the same thing for many years, and so you're always learning. There's always things to try and get on top of, and you feel like you're treading water a lot of the time, um, in a professional sense. And so that, paired with the travel quite often around the world in different time zones and things, it takes away from your home life. It I might be home sometimes for a week with, in theory, nothing to do, but I've just come back from America, so I feel like rubbish, honestly, for the first couple of days. I'm grouchy, I'm grumpy. That doesn't help the relationship with my wife and kids, but you've got to try and get through it to the point where actually you feel human again and can start to be kind and nice. But then that lasts for 3 days, and then you're looking to go away again, and so that's not really paying into the relationship a huge amount. So I have to give a huge amount, massive amount of credit to my wife for sticking with me through the difficult times, because, um, yeah, obviously there was a point when we were just going out as boyfriend girlfriend where she had a choice, and she chose to stick with me many times when I was difficult. So I really appreciate that. But yeah, I then talked to all the mechanics and engineers and people who, I recognize this almost every single time I go racing, that in between races, I don't do a huge amount. I'm able to have time off. And yes, okay, one might argue that the race driver's position is one of the highest pressure roles in a race team, in terms of when you're out on track, it's you on your own in the car and you've got to perform, and it's your name next to that car or results page at the end of it. But in between race weekends, we don't do a ton of work. Whereas the engineers and mechanics, they go back to work Monday to Friday in between race weekends and have even less time with their family. Um, and I find that honestly amazing, when they're just as tired as me when they get back from an event. But then they're in work Monday morning and have to start prepping the cars and things for the next event. Um, yeah, I mean, an amazing sacrifice that those guys make, to the benefit of the race team, and one just hopes that, yeah, they're able to balance things with their family, to not impact it too much, and take the time that they need when it's right to take a step back sometimes. Because, yeah, if you just keep taking and taking from relationships, at some point something's going to give. And too often I see the downside of motorsports being that, people's personal lives are pretty fractured and challenged. Um, but yeah, I think you probably go through any profession, any sport, and the people operating at the top of it are probably in a similar position, because that's just the reality of operating at a high level, right? You've got to give up a lot to be able to dedicate the time and effort needed to reach the top.
Yeah, so I think that's all we have for you, Alex. Thank
No,
you
thank you
for
very much.
thank you
Very
for being on the
interesting
podcast.
discussions. Thanks
Yeah,
for the good questions. It's great.
yeah. Hopefully, I'll keep in touch with you uh, soon.
Absolutely. Please do. Please do. Drop us a message anytime. Always happy to chat.
All right. See you soon.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yep, have a nice
All the
day.
best. See ya. Bye
Bye.
bye.